the podcast, I have a guest who is joining me, and she, in full discrepancy, she is a client of mine, but I asked her to join me because I just could not believe the news that she was sharing with me as we started our PR efforts. And recent data gathered by her and others show that very few people are aware, just as I was not aware. So I would like to welcome to the podcast today, Sherry MacLennan, and she is Executive Director of BC Unclaimed. Thank you for being here today, Sherry.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm happy to be here.
Really appreciate you taking the time. Now, BC Unclaimed is a nonprofit society, and I think the importance here is that we were talking about large amounts of money that are sitting unclaimed that belong to either British Columbia residents or perhaps former British Columbia residents, more than $208 million of unclaimed funds that you have held within the society. Can you tell us about BC Unclaimed, Sherry, and what exactly the nonprofit's role is in holding these funds and then reuniting them with the rightful owners?
Sure. And you're right, Rachel. It is shocking the amount of money that goes unclaimed in British Columbia every year, because we are talking about millions of dollars annually. And so BC Unclaimed's role is to try and reunite that money with the people to whom it actually belongs. In effect, we've been running lost and found for money since 2003 when we got started. And that's when the Unclaimed Property Act went into effect. And what it did was create a consumer protection framework for provincially regulated financial dormant assets. So that's a big mouthful, but it really is a lost and found for money. So we receive monies when the owners can't be found by the organization that's holding those monies. So a good example is a credit union with a credit union account. They've written an owner because the account's been inactive for years. They don't get any reply. So then the credit union is obligated to turn that money over to us. We will then add the details of that account to our database. We'll receive the money and invest it, and we will search for the owner. We've access to certain government databases through information sharing agreements that private companies don't have access to. And so this really gives us a good success rate in trying to find the owners. And then the other thing we have is our website, bcunclaimed.ca, where we put in the names of the people we're holding funds for. So anyone can go and search to see if we might be holding funds in their name.
Okay. So how does, one would ask, and it was, I think, one of my first questions to you, how does over $200 million become unclaimed? How do people forget that they have this money? And I know not everyone has millions. Some have maybe 100, some have maybe 1,000, some have, I think your biggest is 1.9 million being held currently. How do they forget about it?
Yeah, it's sometimes it is a matter of truly forgetting the funds are there, but quite often it's a case of not knowing the funds are there. And so, for example, one of the ways where people don't know we have funds is distant relatives who pass away, and maybe they're named in the will, or maybe the distant relative didn't have a will and it's the law of succession and they're entitled to this money, but they don't know. And so we receive an awful lot of money that way and do successfully reunite those people with their funds. Another example is what we call court funds, and that's cases where people have been involved in debt litigation. It's usually been in court for years. Say a foreclosure is a good example. Their house or condominium was sold. The bank gets their share, but there could be tens of thousands of dollars left over. And the person whose home was sold often couldn't afford a lawyer. They're self-representing. they don't know to go back to the court to say, hey, was there anything left for me at the end of that? Because they just assume it's all gone. And quite often it's not. And we also see that with the debt collections where people have their wages garnished. And so it's really important to us to try and find these people because obviously they've been on hard times and we do want to get them back the money that's rightfully theirs. So those are two good examples. But other examples exist where we've seen people have been the recipients or the beneficiaries of life insurance policies. Say a parent and child have been estranged for many years, and then the parent has never forgotten the child, though, and has left the money in their life insurance. And that's actually so rewarding when we've been able to track down those kids that got that. And they're usually like, I can't believe dad never forgot about me after all. It's very heartwarming. And then, of course, it can be a very significant financial benefit for them. It's a true windfall for them.
Yeah, it's especially relevant and timely currently because there are so many struggling financially as we approach the holiday season. I think I know people are switch their minds a lot more to their finances with all the expenses of the holiday season. So even knowing that you have a couple $100 that's left unclaimed,
yes,
a difference. I mean, I'd love to know that I have that, and I keep checking my. You recommend once a year to check?
Yes, because money does come in. Well, it comes in every month, but I'd say, for the average person, make it part of your financial health and just do a check once a year because you never know. It could be a couple of $100 for membership that you paid and then didn't utilize. Or it could be just, you thought you'd close down that credit union account, but maybe there's a couple $100 that were left behind. So it's definitely worth checking. And we do have sums from $50 and above for people.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is financial scams. So, I get phone calls, people get emails and mails, mostly phone calls and things like that from scammers. And I think we've discussed this before, that's really a challenge because BC Unclaimed being a legitimate society with legitimate funds to reunite with BC residents or former residents. And then there may be some who see that notice in the mail and take it as a scam. Has that been a challenge for you as these scams have become more prevalent in society?
It really has been a challenge for us. We do find people will receive our letter and then sometimes not respond to us, and we do follow up. Try and persuade people, no, we are legitimate. And it is a challenge, and people are right to be skeptical, but they can certainly check our website for more information about us. We've got all our board members listed on the website, so you can see we've got quite a strong, respectable board that should also be proof of our legitimacy. Yes. They can also check the provincial government website, just by Googling unclaimed property, and they will see reference to us in our program. We're a member of the Better Business Bureau, and we're a member of the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators. So those are all signs for our legitimacy. But I think what people really need to be aware of and to know that they're dealing with us and not any scam situation is that we'll never press them. It's not urgent. The money will always be there for them at any time, and we don't charge any fees for our service.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a key thing. When you're asked for money, which will never happen in this case, that's an indication definitely that you might want to be skeptical. And I think that's a great a tip that you provided, the Better Business Bureau, and looking at board members and things like that. So having a look at the website, I think, would be a great way. And even doing a quick news scan, I think, would be great because you have had a substantial amount of news coverage over the years, which talks about the work that BC Unclaimed does for residents here. Under the Unclaimed Property Act, so credit unions, and correct me if I'm wrong, credit unions, debt collection agencies, companies in liquidation, courts, municipalities, and some others are required to make reasonable efforts to find inactive account holders, so to reunite those funds. Failing that, they are required to transfer those funds to you. But there are organizations who participate voluntarily who are not required to transfer the funds over to BC Unclaimed. And can you speak to a little bit about the benefits of just encouraging other institutions to perhaps collaborate with you and what benefits that brings to both the business and the consumer?
Yeah, well, I think the main thing is, as you said, the holders of these unclaimed funds do have to search, under the Unclaimed Property Act to try and find those owners after the account's been dormant. And then once they've failed to find the owners, they have certain obligations under the Unclaimed Property Act to manage those funds themselves or to turn them over to the BC Unclaimed Property Society. And so if they do turn the funds over to us, then we've got the benefit for the consumer of those databases I mentioned earlier. We can do additional searches because we have access to those databases that the private companies don't have. So it's a real benefit for the owner of the fund to basically have someone, BC Unclaimed, making a second kick at the can, trying to find them, using these enhanced tools. So that's why I would say it's better for the consumer if the money comes to us. But it's also better for the business, right? Because the business is then obliged to set up an unclaimed fund registry. They have to adjudicate claims. They have to manage those funds, keep them available indefinitely to be claimed, just as we do. So it's an onerous administrative burden on them as well. And we're here to help and make it simple for them and relieve them of the burden. Once the funds are transferred to us, the legislation is very clear. They don't have any liability for them anymore. It's all on us from that point.
Okay. So a lot of benefits of turning those funds over to BC Unclaimed. Not only does it take away a massive administrative piece of work, but also the legality of it and the success rate of reuniting. Yeah. Definitely. So I was going to ask you this, Sherry, and I know there's not a definite pie chart that kind of puts out this answer, but you see a lot of different types of demographics and people who have funds that are left unclaimed. What do you think are a couple of the primary reasons why you're unable to find people? I know you've mentioned before people kind of moving around and things like that. A couple of things that kind of make it hard to track people.
Yeah. I think it is, people move out of the province. We don't have means to track them down there. We've access to provincial databases. That's our primary means of finding people, and then publishing their names to our website. And so certainly we do get claims from around the world from people that used to be BC residents, and we can certainly approve those claims and send the money to them. And we've certainly done that to just about everywhere you can think of. But they do have to establish that it's them. And then the other thing that happens is over time, people do pass away. And so I've really been working hard to get executors and lawyers aware of the need to check for unclaimed funds when they're handling somebody's estate. And even when they're will planning, do it up front, find out before the person passes away if there's unclaimed funds that can be collected. Because then, although the beneficiaries can claim the funds of the person who's passed on, but they may not know to do that either. So it's so much about raising awareness with the general public. So people should check their own names. And if they have relatives that have passed away, they should feel free to check those names as well, because they will still be on the website and that money is still claimable.
Perfect. I will include a short B-roll that BC Unclaimed has provided, which really walks you through what is a very, very simple process of logging on to bcunclaimed.ca. The search bar is right there on the home page where you would enter your name, and that is where you would check Sherry recommends annually as a part of your financial plan, where you would check your name. So it really is that simple. There's another important component here, benefit to institutions putting money into BC Unclaimed Society for reuniting with its owners, but it also makes a huge difference with nonprofits in the province, and that is via your relationship with Vancouver Foundation. Can you speak to a little bit about that relationship?
Sure. Well, that relationship is, again, founded in the Unclaimed Property Act, which is really a progressive piece of legislation because it designates and directs us to transfer funds for a charitable purpose. And so how that works in actuality is we have an agreement with the Vancouver Foundation, who we then transfer what we call surplus unclaimed funds to on an annual basis. And those are funds that we know will not be claimed at a future date. Again, typically because people have passed on, we have an actuarial formula. And so we're very confident in what we can transfer to the foundation every year. And then their role is to put those monies for social good across BC. And the money does go across the province. And typically it funds not just charities, but many not-for-profits and even some community-driven initiatives as well. And so this is, again, one of the benefits to businesses, as you were saying, of transferring their unclaimed assets, because those funds would just be sitting there, not of any value to the business. But when they transfer them to us, the funds get pooled, and then they can really amplify their social giving. Because I know most organizations, corporations especially, have a sense of social responsibility. They want to give back to their community. And simply by transferring their unclaimed funds, it can have that impact, because then we will, in partnership with the Vancouver Foundation, make sure that money goes for good causes across BC. It's funded things ranging from food security, grizzly bear conservation, mental health youth initiatives. It's really been very diverse, the causes that the funds go to. And we've actually transferred about $80 million since 2003 to the Vancouver Foundation for these kinds of good causes. It's really made a fabulous impact. And it's really an important part of our mandate, that one we feel really strongly and really good about.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, I love that one. It's just kind of it's a bonus, it's a bonus piece, but it's a massive bonus.
Yeah.
To supporting various nonprofits and charities and causes around the province. So there are close to 200,000 British Columbian residents or former residents who have unclaimed funds. That's a very large number. So I can just say that as we were reaching out to just a handful of digital content creators, we found that I think we reached out to 8 of them to start, and out of 8, 2 of them, either themselves or a family member, had unclaimed funds in the BC Unclaimed database. So this is not your chances of winning the lottery compared to this. The data is, I would definitely go with BC Unclaimed search, and it doesn't cost you a penny. So check your name. 200, close to 200,000. I think it's 186,000 people who have unclaimed funds. So it's a large number.
Definitely better odds than the lottery.
Yes, definitely better odds than putting the 649. Although, the odd 649 is okay, but search your name. So the one thing I wanted to say to wrap up, Sarah, the one thing I wanted to kind of just wrap up with, Sherry, is there anything you want to leave listeners with today, whether they're consumers or institutions that are holding unclaimed funds, regarding BC Unclaimed and who you are as an institution, And then just also really briefly, what about the rest of the country?
Well, to wrap up, we've already talked about, yes, please check to see if you have funds with us, bcunclaimed.ca. But the main thing I want people to know is that transferring money to BC Unclaimed, it is part of a consumer protection framework. It's good for consumers. It's good for the businesses who transfer the funds to us. And it's good for BC because of our partnership and the social impact we make with the Vancouver Foundation. Any information that people would like is available on our website, and we're here to help and make the process as simple as possible for them.
I've spoken with several claimants across the province, and almost all of them are just raving about how simple the process was, how quick it was, how thrilled they were to find that clearly anyone would be thrilled to find they had unclaimed funds, and we're just so enthusiastic to support building awareness for the work that you do. And I think, when it comes, something that's important to note is that with the exception of one East Coast province, BC is the only that has a society such as yours. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Canada seems a little late getting on board with unclaimed property consumer protection because BC was the first to do it, followed by Alberta, Quebec, and most recently New Brunswick. I know that there's been efforts in Ontario to develop an unclaimed property organization, but that has not got off the ground yet. And I know that Manitoba is looking into it as well. If we look at the U.S., every state's got an unclaimed property office, primarily as part of their state treasurer's departments. We are pretty unique in BC being a not-for-profit running the unclaimed property and with the provisions to do the social good as well. The UK operates on a similar model to us, but otherwise we're pretty unique.
Wow. So those of us who live in British Columbia or have very fortunate to have a nonprofit society working full-time consistently to work to reunite us with our unclaimed funds and also at the same time give back to the province, which is just two amazing things. There are over $208 million sitting unclaimed currently for residents in British Columbia. Almost 200,000 British Columbians or former British Columbians have unclaimed funds. I'll repeat that because they are massive numbers. And please do check your name on bcunclaimed.ca. We want to reunite as many people as possible with these funds, especially during these times. They're more challenging than ever before. And thank you so much, Sherry, for being here. This is Sherry MacLennan, Executive Director of BC Unclaimed. Thank you so much for your expertise and for taking the time to do, Sherry.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Be kind and truly connect. You are listening to Rachel Thexton Connects.